Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Smith. I'm the program director of Grow New York, and we are hosting today's lunch special Food and Ag Innovation Chat. Uh, in addition to providing some interesting conversation between startups, this series is meant to help us promote the fact that the Grow New York Food and Ag competition is open. We're accepting applications and we'll be accepting applications through July 15th. The top prize of this competition is $1 million. We give out $3 million in prizes each year. And the competition is designed to help attract innovation to the food and ag sector in the Grow New York region. To learn more, you can visit our website, grow-ny.com, and you can follow us on social media at grow-ny. Today's conversation will be between the subject and the interviewer, but we do welcome you to send along questions. You can use the QA functionality that you'll see at the bottom of the window where you're seeing this Zoom. The QA functionality lets you type in questions. I'll collect them, and at the end of the conversation, I'll pop up and get those questions out. We'll talk for no more than 30 minutes. This is really meant to be a brief conversation and then get you back on the way to the rest of your day. We do have 2 more in the series coming up. So again, this is weekly, Thursdays at noon. On the 21st, Propagate Ventures will be on to talk about how to partner with farms on pilot testing to make sure you're ensuring core business viability. And then on May 28th, we'll be talking to the Scotland Yards group on how to get buy-in on really far out innovation. So I am very pleased to introduce today's topic, which is when to bring on sales support. When in the life cycle of your startup is the right time to start bringing additional people on to take care of some of the key tasks that you have in front of you. We have Samantha Abrams, who's the co-founder of Emmy's Organics, really hometown heroes here. And Samantha will be interviewed by Delia Hughes, who is both a Johnson MBA candidate and important part of our ecosystem at the Center for Regional Economic Advancement, also an entrepreneur herself with her Better For You candy company, Tazzy. So I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. Sam, Delia, turn on your cameras and your mics.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So we are going to get started right away. So Sam, would you mind just kicking us off with a description of who Emmy's Organics is as a company and how you and Ian got started with the company?
Sure. And thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to use my new Zoom background. So Emmy's was founded by myself and my life and business partner, Ian, in a home kitchen here in Ithaca in 2009. And the idea for Emmy's came about when Ian taught me his recipe for coconut cookies, which he had really developed out of a need for himself, especially back then. The gluten-free and dairy-free treats and snacks that you could find on the market had a lot of stuff in them, a lot of fillers, a lot of corn, soy, like you name it, artificial flavors. And so Ian has a lot of dietary sensitivities. And so he really wanted to create a treat and a dessert for himself that worked with his diet, but also wasn't full of junk. And so he taught me how to make that recipe one night, and together we realized that there was something really unique here. And that's really how it got started.
Awesome. Can you then walk us through the progression of production scale up for Emmy's? So I know you started in, I think it was your mother-in-law's home kitchen.
It
and
was
then
Ian, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And then how you just evolved with production.
Yes. So yeah, we started in Ian's mom's home kitchen, and her nickname is Emmy. So for anyone who's like, why is your name Samantha and your business is named Emmy's? And so we did everything ourselves. We did not have manufacturing experience per se. Ian had some like restaurant experience in his past, but we did everything ourselves for a pretty long time. And we actually like scooped the cookies by hand with ice cream scoops in the beginning. And so as far as production, there really became a point when we actually started getting into stores that it was not going to be sustainable to have anybody scooping by hand. Ian literally gave himself carpal tunnel. So if there's any like sure sign that you need a piece of equipment, it's usually if somebody's truly uncomfortable doing their job. I mean, hopefully you don't have to get to that point, but we learned that lesson early on, and then started looking at buying small pieces of equipment to make our lives a little bit easier.
Got it. And so I know your first initial hire was someone to help with packaging the cookies. Can you just talk to us about how you compensated this person and all subsequent hires for the first few years? How you were able to pay them? Did it come from profits of the cookie sales? Did you take on capital? Anything like that?
Yep. And so, yeah, so in the beginning, especially because we were doing all of the scooping per se, we needed help so that we could focus on that and to have somebody package for us. And we paid all of our initial production staff, and actually we still pay hourly. And we did that all with the profits of the business. And we did that for a really long time. We still have not taken on any capital, although that is something we're exploring now. But and we've been in business for 11 years. So, when we took out a small business loan with our local credit union here to buy our first piece of equipment. And so really that was like the one thing that we needed. We used the loan to get that, which we actually back then had to get co-signed because neither of us had any credit back then. So, and so all of our labor, everything was from the profit of the business. So that's how we've operated.
And then what was the next function you hired for outside of production to help grow the business?
The next function was somebody as like an admin role, but it became sort of like a catch-all in a lot of ways. They were doing admin, marketing, sales, like calling stores to check in. So it was sort of this hybrid admin role.
Okay, cool. So I know initially Emmy's is based in Ithaca. So originally you were selling at local retailers and the farmers market. How did you get into your first Whole Foods region, and what metrics did you have to hit to expand into other regions?
So we were really lucky in that we had a friend who was working in the whole body department at a Whole Foods in the Mid-Atlantic region. And she actually walked us through presenting our product to the region, which back then meant a lot of paperwork and a lot of samples. And once you were approved, you could then basically approach each store individually in that region. And so it wasn't like you got into the region and then you're automatically in every store. And so we went through that process, and it was a very lengthy process, but we did get in, and that was our first region. And as far as metrics, I'm not sure now how that was done. I know now, like as far as our category and what the velocity expectations typically are, but we did not have the kind of knowledge back then, and didn't even know about data and velocity and ACV and all these things that you learn about when you are in stores nationwide. So I think at the time we had a very unique product, and more and more consumers at that time, this was like right at the beginning of gluten-free, which was not strategic on our part, I will admit, but our timing was really good because stores were really looking for more and more gluten-free options. And so our timing was good.
And just curious, in order to expand into other regions, did Whole Foods require you to have I don't know, any other marketing funds to be promoting the product outside of just in Whole Foods? Or did they partner with you because they were looking for products like yours that didn't necessarily exist to keep pushing the product out nationwide?
Definitely the latter. And Whole Foods definitely likes to be first on a lot of things. You know, they're definitely even still considered trendsetters, and so there's always an allotment. Even now, where things are a little more centralized, even now there is a small allocation of kind of local or like unique products to each region to kind of keep it to give it its own personality in a way.
Awesome. Can you talk to us about your use of brokers? Can you just explain what a sales broker is, and then why did you choose to go with a broker initially over hiring salespeople?
Sure. So, a broker, there's a lot of different types of brokers. There are agencies, there are individual people, there are channel specific brokers, there are brokers that just kind of rep you across the map. There's like kind of mom and pop style. There's so many. And so basically, a broker is helping you get into stores. And someone who's maybe an individual maybe has relationships with different buyers or even distributors who also have relationships with buyers. And so that was our first kind of go at it. We actually worked with an individual guy who reached out to us out of nowhere. And we didn't know what a broker was at that time. And so after we, talked to references and learned a little bit more, we decided to work with him. And so basically for a commission, he helped us get into some of our very first independent distributors in New York City and into a bunch of different retailers. And it was very helpful. And the reason why we took that route is because we could not afford a salesperson. And most small businesses, someone who has a lot of experience is expensive, to work with. And so to be able to afford that commission and still grow is a way you could do it.
Totally. And brokers have good relationships with buyers. So it does get you in the door. It does get your product in front of the buyer where you might not have had that opportunity if you were just trying to do it on your own. Are there any other pros to brokers that are not the obvious ones that we mentioned? And are there any cons that you want to talk about?
Well, a good broker does have connections. And I say good because you don't necessarily, I mean, like, you know, they're not all great. But pros is that, yes, they have relationships. Also, a good broker, because they have a number of brands like under their umbrella, they have the bandwidth to purchase data. And so a smaller data is one of the most expensive things. Like, we had no idea about this, but it's so powerful to have any insight on your sales at the store level. And so a good broker also can provide you with some kind of data, and can just also help you prepare sales presentations and what to expect, and to help you grow. Some of them have a larger teams where they have people literally going into the store to make sure that they're not merchandising for you, but they're checking in to make sure you're on the shelf and can just be your eyes and ears on the ground. So those are all the pros. Cons is that they're working with other brands. And so if they're a large agency and they have a ton of brands under their umbrella, they're naturally going to put their energy towards the brands that are making them the most money, right? I mean, they don't say that, but they would. So if you're a smaller brand, it can be difficult to kind of have your needs met. And so you do kind of need to be like the squeaky wheel if you're working with a larger agency type broker. And other cons is that they're just they're not focused on you 100%, and so they're going to go in and they're going to present your item potentially with other items that they're repping, and you can get distribution that way and you can grow your business, but it's just not 100%. And so it's just, you can't expect that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that That's really helpful for the audience when considering whether to start with the salesperson or start with brokers. Besides the first broker that approached you guys, how did you find or reach out to other brokers? And what information did they look for to decide to take you on as a brand? Because I'm sure it's a little bit of risk for them. They want to build trust with the buyer that they're presenting products that the buyer's actually interested in. So what info did they ask for from you guys before deciding to take Emmys on?
Well, we've worked with quite a few, over the years. And as far as what they were looking for, I think that you're ready to grow, that you kind of like have your stuff together, that you are able to fulfill orders, and that, if they are to get you business, you'll be able to fulfill it. What was the other part of your question?
Essentially that, like, what info are they looking for? Just because I'm assuming like they don't want to go to a buyer without having all their ducks in a row of this new product. So just making sure they had like the trust with the buyer before presenting new products.
Yeah. And I think it's different for every broker with what they're looking for, what their sweet spot is. Like there are some that really do well with really small brands that they're just trying to get their foot into like independent stores. There's a broker that can help you with that. But then there are some larger ones who really specialize in the larger chains. And so, each broker I think is going to have a different set of needs based on that.
Awesome. And it was once Emmys received national distribution in Starbucks that you hired your first salesperson. Can you talk to us about your thought process with bringing on a salesperson at that time?
Yes. Let's see. One, we actually could afford it. That was a big thing, but also obviously a good salesperson is going to be able to kind of essentially make their salary and then some, right? And so we knew that going into Starbucks was a really awesome and unique opportunity that wasn't going to last forever. And so we wanted to make use of it. So not only could we afford it, but we had this nationwide presence that we really wanted to take advantage of. And so we hired a salesperson who was a really like aggressive, not in a bad way, but like a really good sales guy with a great reputation, because we wanted to get into as many doors as possible to make use of that opportunity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And what does the immediate future in terms of a sales team look like for Emmys?
So we have one VP of sales right now, and then we also have a support role, which is a customer marketing manager. And she is responsible for looking at the data that we do get and helping prepare presentations, submitting products. And so like they work hand in hand together, our VP of sales and customer marketing manager. In the future though, we plan to add on 1 or 2 regional salespeople. Our VP of sales is located in Florida now. And so likely maybe we'd find someone on the West Coast to start and then see how that goes, and then eventually add someone else. And luckily, our VP of sales has worked within larger teams before and has managed regional salespeople in the past. So we're really looking forward to what that will be like.
Awesome. And out of curiosity, when you hired that initial sales rep, once you had the distribution in Starbucks, was that sales rep also doing all of the admin work to submit the new items into all the retailers? Or did you and Ian pick up that slack? Or was that really what the sales rep was doing also, like all the back end?
It was a combination, and every salesperson has different skills. And so that the previous VP of sales, the first one we hired, his skills were in selling. Like he was amazing on the road, all that stuff. And so he needed support with presentations. And so Ian actually helped with a lot of that. He did some of it. So we kind of like all worked together to figure that out. But now our VP of sales is able to do a lot of more admin stuff. And we also have that support role for her. So,
right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. And I know you mentioned to me some exciting categories Emmy is looking into. Would you mind sharing a few you're interested in or any tests you're doing? Just for some general ideas to get the fans excited.
What, get the fans excited. Actually, well, we did just launch. So we launched last year a chocolate covered line, and we just like a few weeks ago launched a vanilla flavor of our chocolate covered coconut cookies. Wait, this doesn't work. Oh, there it goes. And those we have online only, but they are going into Whole Foods this summer. And we have a new flavor that's going into Whole Foods this summer as well. And we have something that's crunchy that we've been developing for a while. It is also sweet, and that we're hoping to launch next year. But we do have some other categories we're playing with and kind of dream up for the future when we can, really do more innovation.
Awesome. And that's probably when eventually having more sales force on the line will be really helpful to start presenting a larger portfolio of product.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I'm going to jump in. This is actually a good segue to one of the questions that came in from the audience. And just to remind folks that are watching, you can submit questions through the QA functionality that's at the bottom of your screen. But it's exciting to hear that you're coming up with something crunchy. I can't wait to see what that is and new flavors. One of the questions was about the kind of centrality of coconut to your product. Is that, do you see Emmy's ever diversifying to other kinds of potentially non-gluten cookies, etc.?
Yes.
All right. And that's all, folks.
Gotta go. No, we, yes, our main product line is our coconut cookies, and that's what's most widely distributed. And it was that product was a vehicle for us to become a nationwide brand, but we definitely see ourselves and are playing with other types of products that are not coconut centered.
Mm-hmm. And then another question that came in was about making major purchases as you're scaling. How do you decide when? And really the tactical question was, how did you figure out what to buy in terms of equipment to scale up?
It's really challenging. Typically though, if you're allowing the business to draw you forward, which is has always been our mindset, you can figure out where your bottlenecks are. And so at first, literally Ian getting carpal tunnel, it's how are we going to ask employees to do that? We can't. So it was we need to find a machine that's going to be able to form these cookies. But I will say that before the machine that we got eventually, with a loan from the bank, Ian had used some of his savings to buy another machine that totally flopped. We bought it from a manufacturer in the UK. It came, we were so excited about it, and it just didn't work. And pretty much the company just disappeared. And so we learned a lot in that experience. Okay, if we're going to buy a piece of equipment, that's expensive, we need to know who's going to be able to service it. Can we return this? Is this a company that's really vetted? Which we totally just were we're going to buy this machine. So that was a very early mistake that we learned a lot from. So now even if we are buying a used piece of equipment, we need to just know who's going to be able to fix it, and ultimately we'd like to have almost a tech on our team who can fix things. And we actually have someone who's pretty handy. So it's really tough to know. But typically you'll know where your bottlenecks are. And, for us, we've taken so much time, a business takes time and it takes money. And if you have less money, it's going to take more time, And so we learned a lot of lessons in the time that we've had. And so we're able to make better decisions with our money now.
Great. Have you ever worked with a co-packer, considered working with a co-packer?
Yes, and actually our chocolate covered line is made by a co-packer because we don't have a chocolate line in our facility. And prior to that, we did have a co-packer making all of the items that we were selling into Costco because there was an audit that they required that we didn't feel confident we could pass in our old building, which eventually we did get a Costco audit there, so we could. But before that, we were working with a co-packer to do all of those orders. And quite honestly, we worked with 2 separate ones and had just a really challenging experience. I think there's definitely a way to make co-packers work, but and we have a great relationship with the one that's doing the chocolate covered line, but it was in that experience that we realized how good we were at manufacturing. We were hoping we would work with a co-packer and they would be so much better because they've had so much more experience, they have better equipment, all this stuff. And then maybe even we'd look at co-packing all of our products, you know? But in that experience, that's when we realized, wow, we really have something special here. We have a dedicated workforce, and we kind of know what we're doing. So that's when we really made the commitment to manufacture our products and to purchase the building that we just moved into last week. So we're manufacturing, man.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Any specific advice, things to look out for when considering different co-packers?
Yes. I mean, going to visit the facility, you know, and meeting the people and using your instincts, like, are these people that I really want to work with? Do I feel like I can trust them? Getting references is really important. Understanding about their food safety and just the process of onboarding new products. Minimums are something to look at, you know, because they can be very high. And if you're a small business, that can basically just suck all of your cash. So there is a lot. And there are a lot of good ones out there and there's a lot of bad ones out there. And we even had someone who we found out later, like, tried to sell our recipe to Trader Joe's. And luckily that didn't happen. That co-packer ended up going out of business, like, obviously. And so you don't, you know, we feel like we do trust people and we vet people, but there's always a risk.
Yeah.
It's wild out there.
Well, let's wrap up on a happy note. So
Okay.
you're moving into you moved into the new space.
Yeah.
And how is that going thus far? You're a week in. What kind of staffing do you have in there? How has COVID kind of changed your plans?
Yeah. So, well, first, it's really been our first like production week this week, and our staff is just elated by the amount of space we have. And we also were able to purchase some new equipment that's going to make everyone's lives so much easier. And so it just such a nice feeling for them, you know, to see them so happy with all these types of things. It's very rewarding. As far as COVID, you know, we are considered an essential business. So we've been able to continue manufacturing, although we are, you know, staggering shifts a bit and spacing out lunch shifts and all of that stuff. And most of our office staff is working from home still. And as far as like the industry, you know, sales are down like across the board for most like shelf stable snacks. Although, I mean, like, I think popcorn or like baking mixes are going crazy. And so as far as handling that, we're getting really creative, actually. We're looking at putting some more unique products on our website and on Amazon, you know, just kind of trying to pivot a little bit and just see what we can do. We're lucky that we manufacture our products and that we have that flexibility. So I don't know, we've looked at even doing some light co-packing if it's in line with, you know, our abilities. We don't want to be too distracted from our brand, but that's something we're open to. But I know it's been really, you know, there's been a lot of challenging conversations, but I know we're going to be able to get through it. And online has been really great for us. So we want to keep pushing that.
Great. Good. Well, as Mario in the audience said, congratulations. Great story.
Thank
and
you.
You are very inspirational.
That's so nice.
Thank you so much for participating. Thank you, Delia, for asking such thoughtful questions. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. Again, we have 2 more of these coming up. So hope to see you next Thursday. Thank you, one and all. And goodbye.
Bye.